All right, so air squats. When I first saw this topic, I thought, ooh, basic exercise stuff. This will be a quick one. But wow, was I wrong. After going through all the research you sent me, I had no idea there was so much to uncover about this simple movement.
It's funny how we take the simplest things for granted. The air squat is like a perfect example of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of the things that really stood out to me was this idea that the air squat can be used as like a diagnostic tool. Had you heard of that before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like little shifts in your form when you're doing a squat can actually reveal imbalances or weaknesses you might not even know you have.
Ah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, like for example, if you find your knees kind of buckle inwards when you squat, that could be a sign that you have weak glutes. Or maybe you have some tightness in your hip flexors.
Okay, so it's like our body's giving us clues.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think one of the sources even mentioned that like even really experienced athletes will use air squats to refine their technique.
Yep. Even at the highest level, it's all about mastering the basics.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. If someone's listening and wants to get started with air squats or just improve their form, what are some key things to keep in mind?
Well, I think the setup is crucial, right? Like, got to make sure you're starting from a good foundation. So feet should be slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Toes pointed just slightly outwards too.
Gotcha. So feet are set. What's next?
Engage that core. It's like you're bracing for someone to lightly punch you in the stomach. Not that I recommend that, of course. But that's the kind of feeling you want, that tightness.
Okay, core engaged. I'm ready to squat.
Whoa, there, slow down. We got to talk about the hip hinge. This is a big one.
The hip hinge laid on me.
Imagine you're about to sit back into a chair. Okay, you want to push your hips back while keeping your back nice and straight, chest up.
Oh, I see. So it's not just like bending at the knees.
Exactly, that hip hinge is key. That's what makes it a proper squat, not just some knee bend. And as you're lowering down, make sure you're thinking about keeping your weight back in your heels, your knees tracking in line with those toes.
Okay, now this is where I always struggle. My heels always want to come off the ground. What does that mean?
Yeah, the heel lift. We see this a lot. Could be a few things. Often it's tight calves or maybe limited ankle mobility.
So I need to stretch more.
Yeah, stretching could help. Specifically calf stretches and some ankle mobility work can make a huge difference in how deep you can squat.
Huh. All right, I'll have to try that out. So it seems like all these different parts are really connected. Like one thing's off and it throws everything else out of whack.
Yep. The body's a complex system like that.
Which makes me wonder, what about people with knee pain? Are air squats even safe for them?
That's a great question. And honestly, it really depends. Like, while air squats can be great for knee health, you gotta listen to your body first and foremost. If something hurts, stop. Don't push through it.
Right, makes sense.
I mean, I'd say if you have any concerns or pain, definitely talk to a physical therapist or a doctor to see what's going on. They can give you personalized advice.
I like that. Personalized advice is always best. One thing I found really interesting in the research was how air squats can actually enhance athletic performance, even for people who are already super athletic.
Yeah, it's not just a beginner exercise. That's one of the biggest misconceptions out there. When you perfect the air squat, you're building this foundation of strength and stability, and that translates to so many other movements, running, jumping, lifting, all that good stuff.
So it's like a secret weapon for athletes. And I'm guessing it helps with just everyday activities too, right? Like getting up from a chair, picking up heavy things.
So absolutely, you're using those same muscles for all sorts of daily tasks.
Wow, okay, this simple exercise is way more versatile than I thought.
Right. There's a reason it's considered so fundamental.
I'm starting to get it. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here, but I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, we've barely dipped our toes in.
In the next part, let's unpack some of those common squat mistakes a little more and how to fix them. I'm also super curious to hear more about those advanced applications for athletes.
Sounds good to me. We'll dive deeper into all that good stuff.
It's getting really interesting. All right, so we've talked about how awesome air squats are, how they can be this like diagnostic tool for your body. But now I want to get into the nitty-gritty, the mistakes. Because I know I've made my fair share.
Oh yeah, we all have. Even when you think you've got the basics down, there's always something that can trip you up.
So true, so true. Let's start with one we touched on a bit earlier, the knees caving in thing.
Ah, yes, the dreaded knee valgus.
Knee valgus, is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's the fancy term for it.
Fancy.
But yeah, basically it means your knees are collapsing inwards when you squat.
I've definitely been guilty of that one.
Happens to the best of us. But it can be a sign that your glute muscles are weak, especially the gluteus medius. That's a key player in hip stability.
So stronger glutes, less knee caving.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not even weakness, could be tightness in your hip adductors, those muscles on the inside of your thighs.
So it's like a whole chain reaction.
The body's all connected like that. One thing affects another.
Okay, so what can you do about it?
Well, if it's weak glutes, there are tons of great exercises you can do. Banded clamshells, lateral walks, hip abduction, stuff like that.
Gotcha. Got to work those glutes. Now, another mistake I catch myself doing is rounding my back, especially when I get tired. My form just goes out the window.
Yeah, that's super common. That rounded back usually means your core isn't doing its job.
The core again.
Yep, remember that bracing we talked about? That's essential for keeping your spine neutral. If your core is not strong enough to hold that position, your back starts to round, and that puts extra stress on your lower back.
So basically more planks, more core work.
Exactly. A strong core is the foundation for so many movements.
And for protecting your back. That's good to remember because I definitely prioritize going deep in my squats over keeping a flat back.
Well, that actually brings us to another common mistake: squatting too low.
Wait, really? I thought deeper was always better.
It's not always that simple. Like, yeah, a deeper squat works more muscles, but only if you can get there with good form.
So if I can't keep my back straight, I shouldn't be going that low.
Right, you want to find that sweet spot where you can maintain a neutral spine and still challenge yourself.
Okay, that makes sense. You know, earlier we were talking about how the air squat can benefit even seasoned athletes. And one of the sources mentioned this thing called the overhead squat assessment. What is that exactly?
It's a really cool drill for identifying mobility restrictions, even in people who seem like they move well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you basically do a regular air squat, but you hold a dowel or a light bar overhead with straight arms.
So it's like adding another layer of difficulty.
Exactly, and that extra challenge exposes any limitations you might have in your shoulders, thoracic spine, hips.
Well, even if you think you're super mobile, this assessment could reveal some hidden issues.
Exactly. It's all about fine-tuning those movement patterns.
That's pretty amazing. I never thought of it like that. Wow, I'm seriously learning so much about this seemingly basic exercise.
Right. There's so much more to it than meets the eye.
That's like a whole world of knowledge just waiting to be unlocked.
And it's all about exploring those nuances, understanding how our bodies move.
So cool. Well, we've covered the physical stuff pretty extensively, but you know, one of the sources you sent mentioned something about air squats and mindfulness. I'd love to hear more about that. We've been talking so much about like the physical benefits of air squats, you know, the strength, mobility, how it can help prevent injuries. But one of the sources you sent me mentioned something I'd never even considered before, air squats, as a way to be more mindful.
Oh, yeah. That's a really interesting side of things. We often think of it as just a physical exercise, but there's definitely a mental component too.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does that work? Like, how can doing squats make me more mindful?
Well, when you're doing an air squat and you're really present, really paying attention, you're not just going through the motions, you're actually tuning into all the sensations in your body.
Interesting.
You know, feeling your muscles working, how your weight shifts, even your breath.
So it's like bringing that awareness we try to cultivate in meditation into a physical movement.
Exactly. Instead of letting your mind wander, you're focusing on the experience of squatting right here, right now.
Huh. I like that.
Yeah, and it's like a little mini meditation break you can take anytime, anywhere.
Right. No need to carve out extra time or find a quiet space.
Exactly.
You know, speaking of incorporating squats into our day, I was really surprised by how many variations and progressions there are. We've been mainly talking about the basic air squat, but it seems like there's a whole world of possibilities beyond that.
Oh yeah, for sure. The air squat is just the foundation.
So like what? What are some other ways to squat?
We mentioned goblet squats earlier. That's a good one where you hold a weight in front of your chest.
Oh yeah, those are tough.
Definitely adds an extra challenge. And then you've got jump squats, pistol squats, all sorts of things.
It's amazing how you can take this one simple movement and make it so much more complex.
That's the beauty of it. You can keep challenging yourself in new ways.
I love that idea. It's like we're constantly evolving and growing, even with something as basic as a squat.
Yeah, it reminds us that there's always more to learn, always room for improvement.
So true. Well, after this deep dive, I gotta say I have a whole new appreciation for the air squat.
It's more than just an exercise, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like this hidden superpower we all have just waiting to be unlocked.
And the more we explore it, the more we discover about ourselves and what our bodies can do.
I am feeling very inspired to go do some squats right now. But before we wrap up, is there one key takeaway you hope our listener walks away with today?
I'd say this. Don't underestimate the power of the fundamentals. The air squat might seem simple, but it's a gateway to so much more better physicality, more mindfulness, a deeper understanding of your body. It's a journey, and it's all about embracing that journey and seeing where it takes you.
So well said. Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been enlightening.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time, folks, keep exploring, keep moving, and keep squatting.